I had a quick question.
Hi, Simone. Go ahead.
Afternoon. I recently got two interviews from two separate companies.
Yay.
Total Recall a lot, but I just had like a question as far as like scheduling out interviews. Like both of them basically wanted to like do the interview the next day, and so I scheduled it out like the second one like Wednesday, and
Okay.
one like 2 days after that. And so I just want to know like, is it a bad idea to like schedule? I prefer to like schedule them out 3 or 4 days out, but like, what would you think is like the longest you should schedule something out or an interview out?
Great question. Um, there's really no wrong way to go about this because I even see sometimes companies will make you guys wait like 2 or 3 weeks to interview. Like sometimes you don't want it to be ridiculous where they ask you to be available, in the next couple of days, and then you tell them, oh, I'm not available for like a month out. That's a little excessive. But as far as I think a reasonable time frame is anything within, sometimes it's 24 hours, sometimes they're trying to move quickly. And if you feel comfortable and confident, you've done Total Recall a few times, you know what it's like to get a job offer, I would say go ahead and book your interview the next day because you know what you're going to do. But if you're still trying to master what to do, give yourself a couple days at least, 2, 3, 4 would be great. Give yourself a weekend. It doesn't hurt to be the quote unquote last person to interview. You don't really know when you're going to be, because sometimes they'll tell you schedules, but then other people reschedule. So you're not always like the last person to interview. Cause I know I get that question from my mentees where they're like, should I be in the middle? Should I be in the morning? Should I be? So I think the strategy is more like do it in a time frame that gives you enough to study the job in a way that will ground you in the job and organize your thoughts and anticipate most of the questions. Um, and if you're juggling multiple interviews, congrats. That's amazing, Simone. That means you're definitely doing something right. You're using the methods as needed. Now you just need to master this interview process. Um, I think it's using every interview as practice. So don't, in other words, the interview you do 2 days prior to the other one is going to inform you on how well you prepared for the next, right? So it's not going to be like, oh, interview for this company. Okay, completely forget everything. No, now I got to interview. Not necessarily, no, because the interview will have given you feedback as far as was it a conversation? Did they lean in? Were they taking a lot of notes? A lot of you get nervous when you see them writing notes, but that's a sign that you're on the right path. So you want to keep them writing. You want to exhaust them. So it's those kinds of things that you want to just notice as far as like, oh, it was a conversation. Because one of my mentees, some of them are like, oh my God, I felt great. I felt great. And I'm like, okay, was it a conversation? Yes or no? I almost don't even, I don't care. I'm sorry to my mentees, but I'm like, it doesn't matter if you feel good because a lot of times they feel great and they still get rejected. I've heard mentees be like, she said she loved me. She said she was sold. Someone was like, well, I'm sold. Like an interview, some staff member said that out loud in someone's interview, and she was crushed when they didn't select her. So I've learned, from even my own experience where I feel like they're smiling, we're all great. It don't matter how you feel. It's like, was it a conversation? Were they writing exhaustively? Did they ask you follow-up questions? Some of you get worried of like, oh, I don't think I answered their questions. Sometimes it's that they want you to keep giving them insider knowledge and drill deeper and drill down into what you just said. So like, oh, you mentioned that you used to work at faith-based organizations. Can you tell us more about that? Right? It's because that might influence their decision making. So those are the telltale signs, Simone. So if you feel like, okay, interview one, I saw more of that conversation, leaning in, talking, whether or not you feel good, because sometimes you'll stumble. But I say the ideal candidate is given They're given wiggle room to stumble. They are forgiven for stumbling if they sense, the employer senses that they understand the language that we use here at the company. In other words, the employer knows that everyone's nervous. Everyone naturally is nervous. Even the ideal candidate will be nervous. So there's forgiveness in that nervousness, as long as you show, I understand this role. I understand what you're looking for. That's all it is. Okay, Simone. But yeah, I say use one for practice. Give yourself enough time. The most I've had a mentee do is 3 in 1 week. I was like, oh my God. I think Allison, you may have had 3 in 1 week. I know there was at one point you were just go, go,
I
go.
did. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. You're one of the
It was exhausting, and I will try to never do that again.
please don't do that again. You don't need to do
I
that.
will.
No.
I didn't get any of those jobs, by the way. Didn't
Oh,
work out so well. Like just as a, evidence.
it's just, yeah, it's just the whole onslaught of interviews can really get to you. So I would say pace yourself, Simone. 2 days is enough for you. I think you have to just feel like, yeah, I've done total recall enough to feel like I can handle 2 in 1 week.
Yeah, it always seems to happen to me that like
Is it
I'll
happening?
in the same time frame. Like I've never just gotten one interview at a time. It's always two or three for some reason within like a week or two. I don't understand.
Okay, well, you have a good problem to manage too. Pace yourself, yeah, pace yourself out. I say use your time. Collect yourself. Collect yourself. Okay, and Allison, I see you have a question. Let me just answer that, and then Cynthia, you'll be next. My question, can you talk about any differences in approaching a phone screening versus a traditional full interview? I'm prepping for a 25 phone screening with the hiring manager. Love this question. There is no difference. So I think some of you want the screening or the first. Here's why I say that there's no difference, because I've experienced where it can be real simple, like questions like tell us about yourself, you know, tell us a time that you did, tell us a time that you provided project management for research, whatever. They may ask like 2 or 3 questions and then ask you about schedule or if you're willing to move or just like very basic kind of points. Yes, there's that kind of interview screening. Then there's the other one where I think of my mentee who just completed 3rd round with Public Health Institute, one of their job postings from like 2-3 months ago. She's now finally in the 3rd round for it. Yay. But her first screening was intense. The questions were just as intense as the third one. In fact, I can share my screen and show you guys what those questions were. I'll just delete her name real quick. But that's the stuff I try to warn you guys against, is I can't tell you how hard these jobs are going to screen you for. So I try to be honest about, you might as well anticipate worst case scenario, all the questions. Because I've seen, even at my job at Kaiser, the screening questions were harder than the second full interview. I felt like the recruiter came in hard because I felt like they were tired of like not talking to the right people. So they were like, you better send us someone we want to talk to. So she came harder on, tell me about the stakeholders you worked with. Tell me about the communities that you've served. Tell me about how you've trained medical professionals. Like, shit, hi, nice to meet you. Like that was my screening. So I'm just trying to be honest with you, Allison, about it's all of it. You got to prepare for all of it.
I appreciate that. And that's, I was even thinking like, okay, if I only have a short period of time, am I just giving them like just a little teaser versus like
Oh,
in,
mhm.
but what you said is really helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, treat it like an interview. Yeah.